So as you can see, there's currently a glitch in Season 14 of Diablo 4 where you can spawn a ridiculous amount of goblins, and mixing this effect with other parts through your endgame skill trees, you can actually multiply this ridiculous amount of goblins, potentially being able to spawn dozens and dozens and dozens of goblins in a single Nightmare dungeon. And on top of that, with some other nodes in your Nightmare dungeon skill tree, you can also get the ability to get Treasure Breach Nightmare sigils through all of these kills, and you also have a chance to open a portal to the Goblin realm itself, where you could go face some more goblins and face the kind of goblin boss at the end. So there's a lot of different things that tie together with this glitch to allow you to get a pretty ridiculous amount of loot. Now, first we have to go over the glitch, how we are actually using it, and the weird way in which it actually works, because you are going to have to use a specific keybind to actually get this glitch to work. So the main thing this is coming from is Heraldric Hunter. So you kill 25 elites across Nightmare dungeons to reveal a Heraldric altar, and activating it will give you one of these random effects, whether it be elites or treasure goblins or the butcher. But we are taking the upgrade below it, Altar of Avarice, where it will only spawn treasure goblins now. So anytime we go kill 25 elites in Nightmare dungeons, it spawns an altar on the ground that normally you would click and would spawn a few goblins. But what you can actually do on this altar is if you could click it a bunch of times very quickly, it will actually multiply the amount of times this altar spawns what it's spawning. And the result is what you saw at the start of the video, where you could spawn like a dozen plus goblins out of one of these altars that should normally only spawn a couple goblins. Now, the main way you're actually going to do this is you're going to change your interact key to your scroll wheel on your mouse. Now, you can change it to any interact. I just have move and interact, and you can change it on the right side here, which will be an alternative keybind. So I still have my normal keybind I use, and then just when I'm trying to do this glitch, I will also have a scroll wheel on my mouse. Now, I don't have a controller. I don't play on any console, so I don't know how you'd be able to do this on a controller. I'm sure there are probably ways people will figure out, but this, based on my knowledge, is going to be for PC specifically, or for just anybody that can use a mouse. Now, depending on what mice you have, it may actually be much more easy to do this. One of the mice I have has a feature where there's just a button on the top I could click down, and it changes the scroll wheel into smooth scroll, so there's not the clicking, so I can just roll the scroll wheel and it keeps going for quite a long time. So that's how I get the spawns from this, because I can just do that and it will click this shrine a bunch of times very quickly, and that's how you're getting the, dozen plus goblins. And I do know there are usually settings in a lot of mice programs that will also allow you to change different things about the scroll wheel, whether it be its sensitivity or how quickly it should register another input. So there's a bunch of ways you could do it, but even just normal scroll, you should be able to do it a bit quicker than just trying to spam click on the altar. And that's the main thing you're going to be doing for the basis of this glitch. You're going to be using those altars in our skill tree like I went over. Then you're going to be using your scroll wheel whenever you get that altar, and you're just going to be able to spawn a ridiculous amount of goblins. But there are a bunch of things that allows you to make this farm much faster, to allow you to kill a lot more elites and just get a lot more loot out of this in general, and even multiply the amount of goblins you're actually going to be killing. And most of these things do come through our skill trees as well. So going just into the rest of the Nightmare Dungeon skill trees, the first node that actually takes you down to these altars. So anytime you defeat a treasure goblin, they just have a low chance to give you a Nightmare Sigil with a Treasure Breach affix. And Treasure Breach affixes is just a dungeon full of treasure goblins. And I do have one right here. And I've crafted probably hundreds of Nightmare Sigils this season. And Treasure Breach seems to be a bit more rare than it used to be, at least in Season 13. So this is definitely a good way to get these. And also, if you're going to be playing the season for, let's say, even the first month, usually within the first month now, there will be a goblin event. So maybe even saving these for the goblin events are pretty good. And I haven't ran a Treasure Breach sigil run yet. But one thing I did notice is that just running normal Nightmare dungeons, anytime you come across treasure goblins now in just normal Nightmare dungeons, they are always spawning in packs of 2 or more. I have not seen a singular treasure goblin yet. All of them have been in packs of 2 to 4. So there is the possibility possibility that this treasure breach affix is also doing that as well, where you could potentially be getting like double or triple or even up to quadruple the amount of goblins you would be getting from previous seasons. That at a baseline is already going to be really good because you could consistently do this so well that you will start to get treasure breach nightmare sigils pretty effectively, or at least pretty consistently. And then the final note on the right side of this tree is greed is good. So anytime you kill a treasure goblin in a nightmare dungeon, there's a chance to spawn the goblin's retreat portal, which I will have footage of somewhere in this video. Now there seems to be different versions of this. It takes you to the same area that'll usually have some shrines and a bunch of resplendent chests. Now when I went into this portal last season, it also had a bunch of goblins in there to kill. The one I got so far this season had no goblins in the starting area, but you still get to go to the end and fight the boss, who will then drop a ton of stuff. I think like hundreds of millions of gold as well, tons of other stuff, and he will spawn a bunch of random goblins, so you can also get all of that loot as well. So this is just additional possibility, even though it is a low chance to get this portal. And also keep in mind, all of the goblins you are going to be spawning from this are normal treasure goblins. So there's not going to be any of the different variants, but normal treasure goblins drop kind of a mix of loot from most of the other goblins. And one of the really good things I noticed is that even normal treasure goblins drop a good amount of charms and seals. Charms and seals being incredibly strong. If you need gold, you just sell them. You'll make a ridiculous amount of gold. In fact, that's one of the best ways to farm gold this season, is just sell all of your seals and charms. Or you could salvage them to get the materials to re-roll your own charms to get those greater affix rolls on those, which will massively increase your power. Then they just drop tons of other materials and random pieces of gear. So normal treasure goblin loot, while isn't necessarily as good as some of the other variants, is still pretty good across the board. But then you also have some other options which can allow you to multiply the amount of goblins you're getting and just allow you to get to these heroic altars more quickly. And this is on the left side of the tree. The first note just gives you additional loot at the end of the dungeon. That doesn't really matter. The main thing we really care about is Gauntlet. While in a nightmare dungeon, when you get a shrine buff, anything you kill while you have the shrine buff on you traps their souls within you. And then once the shrine buff is lost, either through dying or the shrine buff just falling off from its duration, all of those enemies you killed when you had the shrine buff will respawn, including goblins. And because these 25 elite kills you need to spawn the heroic altar is shown as a buff on your buff bar, it's just a skull on your buff bar and it'll have a number. Since you know how many elites you've killed, meaning you could control when you get a heroic altar, what you can do is wait until you have like 23 or 24 elite kills, then go find a shrine, use it, get the last couple elite kills you need, then the altar will spawn, you kill all of the goblins, then the altar will spawn, you spawn all the goblins, kill them all, then when the shrine buff goes off you, all of those goblins you just killed, which could be like a dozen plus, will now respawn, allowing you to multiply how many goblins you have, and you do have decent control of this. Also, pretty much the only way you can lose the amount of elite kills you currently have saved up for the heroic altar is logging out. You can go do any other content of the game and you will keep the buff with the amount of elite kills you have. So what you could do is just go in any nightmare dungeon, whether it be a key you would normally throw away or whatever, go in there, kill elites, and then you could use a nightmare sigil with one of these shrine affixes on it, like protection shrines or blast wave shrines. You could get like 23, 24 elite kills, go pop one of these sigils to get a dungeon that has the 3 shrines in it, because that's what these shrine affixes are. There will be 3 shrines within that dungeon. So you can just guarantee shrines, and you can even multiply that more, because if you are close enough to multiple different shrines, what you can do is go find that shrine. You can get your elite kills by either popping the shrine with another node we'll talk about, but you would get the altar, you would have a shrine buff, you would spawn all the goblins on the altar, kill all of those goblins, and then go to the next shrine, and then next to the next shrine you would wait until that previous shrine buff falls off, which when it falls off it would respawn all the goblins you killed. Then before you kill those goblins that are spawning in on you, you then pop the next shrine buff and you just do that again. And since these nightmare sigils that have the shrine affix on them will always have 3 shrines in them, if the shrines are close enough you can actually do this 3 times over. You would then be able to get like 4 dozen goblin spawns or more within that single dungeon, which is crazy. Now another way that helps you not only speed up the amount of elites you're getting, but also allows you to more easily get the elite kills you need when in your shrine buff is Nemesis, which when you activate a shrine buff there is a chance for up to 7 elites to ambush you. Now because of how this node works, it is very rare to not get at least 1 elite spawn from clicking a shrine, because it can be from 1 up to 7. There is I think a low chance to get like 0, but it seems to be a much higher chance to get at least 1 elite. So that allows you to kind of control when you get your altars, altars and allows you to more easily get it when you have that shrine buff. So whether you're running around trying to build up to the altar and you're using shrines to double up on the amount of elites you're getting, or you're trying to use these shrines to spawn more elites to get the altar, then multiply your goblins. But all of these are going to work very well together. And I would say the one downside is you need at least 6 points in the Nightmare Dungeon skill tree, because the only node you can really get rid of if you want to do everything I just went over is get rid of Greed is Good, which just won't give you a chance to go to the Goblin's Retreat, and you just have all of these 6 others. Because if you remove any of these other buffs, the farm is going to be significantly worse. Removing the chance for the elites to spawn slows down the farm immensely. You can't really get rid of Altar of Avarice because this is what guarantees goblins from the altar. So you do need at least 6 points, and that's really the biggest downside to this. But outside of that, it's very easy because you can run literally any Nightmare Dungeon. And that's legitimately all you're going to need to do this kind of infinite goblin spawning glitch. It is pretty ridiculous. If you have all 7 points, you can get up to the 25 kills to spawn the altar to then spawn all the goblins very, very quickly. But that's all I want to go over. So thanks for watching.